Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, where we take a offensive approach to the sports conversation. I'm your host, Jay, with my co-host, Jimmy. We are here to talk to you about sports. Thank you for checking us out wherever you get your podcast. While you're there, rate us and review us and give us 5 stars. You don't think you deserve it? Meh, give us 5 anyway. Gifted. Alright, so on today's episode of Unfair Sports, we're going to dive into the conference finals. Kawhi is not happy. Dame's going to run out of Portland. Scottie Pippen is on a tour like no other. Trae Young seems to be hurt. And we'll wrap up with Kevin Durant thinks about comments made about him. Hit us up on the Unfair fan line, 430-901-1906, and let us know what you think of the show. Give us your strongest opinions. You may end up on the show as part of one of our segments to talk about your opinion. We love a strong opinion, so hit us up on the fan line, as well as check out our YouTube page. We need to see the video. So go to our website, unfair-sports.com, and hit us up on the line, 430-901-1906.
Whew. J Master Jam, what's going on?
What it do, baby? My apologies last week on the video as well as the audio. I was rushing from a funeral when I got back. Didn't get to get everything prepared like I was supposed to. You know, things happened. It was all in the air. People started dying. Flies was everywhere. The world was coming to an end, and I don't know where I put my face. So, my bad.
That was the conclusion.
But I fixed it. We got everything fixed. We got everything all tied up the way it's supposed to be. So we're gonna have a fantastic segment and show for you all today. So make sure you, like I said, check out the YouTube page, unfair-sports.com. You can see at the website all the syndications where we post everything, the social medias. You can see the clips. You can go watch the whole videos on YouTube. So make sure you like, subscribe, and share, because sharing is caring. We are at 99 subscribers. Let's get over to 100.
Yes, sir.
So with that, Jimmy, you want to start off with this?
Yes. The best place to start, NBA playoffs, Western Conference. Jay, we had a game for the ages between the Phoenix Suns and the LA Clippers on Saturday. Game 4 of the series with the Phoenix Suns squeaking out an 84-80 win in what is probably the ugliest, most worst shooting snooze fest of a playoff game I have ever seen.
1980s, 90s basketball that y'all supposedly love so much.
Even they shot better than that. Phoenix 36%, Clippers 32%. But nonetheless, Phoenix goes up 3-1. As we record this show tonight, they have a chance to close it out tonight in Phoenix. As a matter of fact, they're on home court. So let's start with them. So the Suns up 3-1. Jay, now that they have done that, are the Suns, fair or unfair, will the Suns close out the series tonight?
I don't think it's fair to say that. I'm going to say it's unfair. I don't believe they'll close it out tonight. I think that the Clippers will give us at least one more push. They'll actually show up. Neither team could possibly shoot as bad as they did last game. I mean, it was atrocious. I looked at the box score and I was just like, this is god awful. This has got to be one of the worst shooting performances I think I've ever seen in a professional game. The Clippers were 32% from the field, 16% from 3 at 5 for 31. Good God, that's gross. And they shot 65% from the line. They were 21 for 32 from free throw. If they would have just made like 6 of them, they won the game. But they couldn't even make free throws. And then when you go to the Suns shot 21 free throws to 32. They were 85%, so they missed, looks like 3, but they were 4 for 20 from 3. They were 20%, and then 36% from the field in general. It was just bad. I mean, 59 rebounds for the Suns and 51 for the Clippers. Not to go too far into the boxes and everything, my point behind this is that it was awful, and it wasn't even enjoyable to watch.
Nope.
At all. So I think it's unfair to say that that's going to happen again. I think the Clippers will at least give us one more. I just don't think they have enough firepower to get past the Suns without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought you were going to go the other direction, but I agree with you. I think it is unfair to say that. I do pick the Clippers to win tonight, primarily because they have fought this entire series. And if you look at the outcome of each game, they've been right there outside of the game that they won, game 4. Yeah. But their first loss was by 6, second loss was by 1, and then this loss was by 4. Yep. So they are right there with this team without Kawhi Leonard, who is out for this series. So I think that in between Ty Lue's coaching and on-the-fly adjustments, and with how the team really around Paul George's play, you've seen Reggie Jackson in the other games, let's say before this game, making big shots, and even in the series before that. And usually alongside him, there's another guy who steps up, Terrence Mann, who no one had ever heard. No one had ever heard of. Somehow turns into one of the greatest players of all time in these third quarters, and that's helped them to be as competitive as they have been. So you look at this Clippers team down 3-1, yes, but they're just as motivated as the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, the Phoenix know we win this game, we get to the finals, we finally get Chris Paul to the finals, like so many people have wanted because he's had such a great career. But also, Ty Lue has been in this spot, and they know if we win this game, we get to go back to our building for Game 6, where we like our odds even more. We can get past that. Game 7, anything is possible, especially in a series with Chris Paul. But the most important reason why I think that they are not done in this series, the Clippers, is that defensively, I think they have figured out CP3 and Devin Booker. They have not figured out DeAndre Ayton, but they figured those two out, because if you look at Game 4, CP3 and Booker were a combined 10 of 40, which if my math is correct, is 25% from the field. And in this last game, they were a combined 14 of 44, which is around 30%. So I don't think that's just nothing. Maybe you could say Game 4 was nothing and then they bounced back and they played well, but they didn't. So there are reasons why, obviously, people could make excuses for both of them. Devin Booker's wearing the mask in one of the games.
Then he took it off.
Really didn't help. CP3 is still working himself back into game shape since he took that time off because of COVID. But either way, I think defensively they have figured this team out in terms of their backcourt. They just don't have a solution for DeAndre Ayton. He's a huge problem for this team.
He is. And if you're watching the video, of course, on the YouTube, you'll see with my shirt, I don't think that we'll be giving the Suns coffee because the coffee's for closers only. And I don't think they're going to be able to close it this time, but there's a chance they can close it at 6. I really want this to go 7.
I do too.
I want it to go 7 because it's been some really exciting basketball, especially in the conference playoffs in between both sides. It's been unexpected for it to be this good, especially with the injuries and the things that we've dealt with, from Chris Paul and the COVID situation to Kawhi Leonard having potentially something torn in his knee, and we have no clue what's wrong with him, and him being unhappy. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Everything else on the other side, I want to see more of this. I want to see kind of be drug out. I want to really enjoy just the fact that we got good basketball, even though the most notable names are not in there that we're used to. And so with that, the biggest things the Suns are going to have to do is, like you mentioned, they're going to have to keep Ayton involved. They got to keep him going. Devin Booker seems to just he'll come to light when he needs to. And it's funny because RJ Bell actually put out a tweet from when Chris Paul came back, RJ in Vegas, one of the Vegas guys. He said the plus minus. So since Chris Paul's return from COVID, only 2 games, it's a small sample size, but it's still interesting that this is where we're at. First half with Chris Paul on the floor, the Suns are a plus 19 points combined. Darn good. Second half with Chris Paul on the floor, the Suns are minus 31 points. That's a big sway.
Second half?
Yes.
Of these games?
Half of these games.
And you know why that is, right? It's the reason why they're calling Ty Belichick, is because he goes in there at halftime like you would expect an NFL coach like Belichick to be able to do, and he figures something out to stifle him.
And this is why I wanted to make mention. I made mention of this specifically because of the Ty Lue love. We need to give Ty Lue his flowers.
Yes.
We need to give Monty Williams his flowers as well. Both of them are coaching their asses off in this series, and I really appreciate the changes. And when it comes to that, the jokes are adjustments. Like, what are the real adjustments? Can you really make adjustments? What are the actual adjustments?
Right.
There really are. A lot of the adjustments are they going over the top or under? Who's actually in the game? What type of lineups are being played? And then what type of switches that they're going to make with those specific lineups? What are they going to give the team? What are they going to take away? All of that stuff coming in, you can see that it actually makes a difference. That's the change. Same thing even with Monty Williams playing DeAndre Ayton at certain times when Zubac's out there or not. Just those type of changes. Pay attention to the subtle differences you see with lineups. That's when you see those adjustments, and it's really appreciated. So speaking of that, to the other side where it doesn't seem like there's any adjustments on the East. And well, there's one that adjusts, but I don't know if the other dude has learned how to yet. And unfortunately, I think his team's going to bail him out of losing his job. And I don't like people losing their job, but at the same time, sometimes it kind of, you can tell when it's time for somebody to move. he's being saved. And that's basically going into the Bucks and the Hawks.
So we had game 3 last night.
Which annoys me that they're like 2 games behind.
Yeah, that annoys me too. The NBA with their scheduling, we could do a segment on that. I don't like how the lack of rest that they've given each of these teams. I mean, it's clearly evident that they're trying to speed this thing along.
Right.
And that, for a lot of reasons, is problematic. Don't have time to get into that. But yes, we had game 3 last night in the Eastern Conference in Atlanta between the Bucks and the Hawks. And the Bucks pulled away late to win 113-102, taking a 2-1 series lead. And within the game, I believe it was the third quarter, that Trae Young got a sprained ankle/bone bruise by accidentally stepping on the foot of one of the refs who was behind him, and that affected his mobility throughout the rest of the game. He's questionable for game 4. Most people think that he's going to play, and I believe he will as well. But the Hawks are down 2-1 with their best player not 100%. So, Jay, is it fair or unfair to say that the Hawks will survive with Trae Young on one leg?
Oh, it's definitely unfair. There's no chance that they survive without Trae Young. Trae Young is the heart and soul of that team. As much as I like everyone around him, I looked at them similar to the way I looked at the 2012 Thunder. Now, this is a very out there comparison, but let me explain.
Yeah, let's hear this.
Let me read back in.
Okay.
The 2012 Thunder were a team that skipped all of the steps. First round, they were 8 seed. Lost to the Lakers, gave him standing ovation here. So he was like, looks like we've got something here. The drafting of Russell Westbrook as well as James Harden was kind of questionable to a lot of people. They weren't sure who they were or what they bring. Help, I'm correct. Russ didn't even start in college at UCLA. He was behind Darren Collison.
That's right.
So people didn't realize who he was as a player. And so you compare them with a great player like Kevin Durant, who we already knew was going to be great. They go out there to the 8th seed, and then the next year they go to the second round, and you're like, oh, okay, this Thunder team may be potential, had a little future to it. And then from there, they went to the finals. And it's like, wait a minute, why is this team in the finals? Because you look, a few years later, you realize they have 3 MVP caliber players on their team.
Right.
And so I'm looking at these Hawks in a similar way. For one, they're young. They don't know that they're not supposed to be here. They're out there having fun. They're playing loose. They're getting comfortable, and they're just balling. I don't know if there's MVP caliber players on this team, if it's just the fluke and the anomaly of what happened with COVID and the shortened season and everything. Because remember, the Thunder went to the finals as well in a shortened season. They went to the 66-game season where the season started on Christmas Day based upon the CBA. So similar scenarios where they skip a line and teams just weren't able to do what they, normally would do going into that. And then, the world kind of right-sized itself, where Oklahoma City dealt with a whole bunch of injuries, et cetera, so on and so forth.
Right.
But this Hawks team, I feel like they have a chance to stay around based upon how good of a team they are. They're all young. They're still under those good contracts. The question is, how healthy will the East be to prevent them from being able to do this again? I don't know yet. I don't even know if we've got what type of caliber players we have from them going forward. We won't know for about 3-4 years if we had MVPs on this roster or not. But I like what I'm seeing out of them. I like seeing that they're so young and they don't know they're supposed to be here and they're still out here balling out. I say all that to say this. Trae Young is the heart and soul of this team. Trae Young is everything. Trae Young and Luka, great. They both were drafted the way they were drafted, with Trae being traded. The Hawks don't do anything without Trae Young. Period. Like, that this team does not run without him saying the engine, because the one thing that he does that is so rare to see in players, which is honestly what makes it even funny in this series, him and Giannis kind of have this in common. They have very short memories. They make a mistake. I mean, Giannis will go out there, shoot a free throw, airball it. The next thing you know, he's going to dunk on somebody. Trae Young will go out there, he'll miss some shots, and then he'll shoot it from the logo. And you're like, wait a minute, dog, you just missed like 10 straight shots, but you pulled from the logo with confidence? All of that confidence is what exerts out to everybody else on the team. And I think that they feed off of that. Him not on the court, they have no one to feed off of.
Okay. So you think that the Hawks, so essentially what you're saying is the Hawks still have a chance, right?
I'm saying the Hawks have a chance if Trae Young is playing. If Trae Young ain't playing, they ain't got no chance.
Well, I'm going to agree with you for a different reason. I would say it is unfair to say that they can't survive without Trae on one leg. I do think they need him out there on the court, albeit even if he's 65 to 70% of himself, albeit even if he's used as a decoy. But there is a game plan for this to work. Because first of all, you have to think, okay, who's going to run this offense if Trae Young isn't going to be what we physically what he usually is? It's either got to be Lillard or Bogdanovich. One of those two has to run this offense. Okay, because Trae Young is not going to be able to do that. He's going to have to play off the ball more, might have to spot up more, but he's not going to have his cutting ability. He's not going to have sort of that quick twitch ability to get into the lane, and you don't want him to because you don't want him to injure that foot or that ankle even further. So one of those two has to run the offense. Second thing you got to do, Giannis is not your problem. Chris Middleton is your problem. You know Giannis is going to get his because it's two back-to-back MVP. He's going to get his. You cannot have Chris Middleton getting 38 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists on you. You've got to find a way to keep him in the 20 to 25 range. If you can do that, knowing Giannis is going to get his 30 to 35, you have a legitimate shot. Also, on the other side of that, John Collins, who looks like now he's getting exposed. We thought he could be on a level that can somewhat match what Trae Young is doing, and he was bad in that last game. They need 20 and 10 from John Collins in order to compete with this team without a Trae Young that's 100%. So you can do that. If you can get Lillard or Bogdanovich to run this offense, if you can figure out your Chris Middleton problem, and if John Collins can play like a all-star level power forward, you have a chance to maybe not win the series, but to not get gentlemen swept out of the series. That's what they got to do.
I agree with you on that. And one of the biggest problems for Atlanta is that this is a recurring injury for Trae Young. This is kind of like the Steph Curry thing. Like, we always compare him to Steph Curry, and Steph Curry was known for having ankle issues coming into the league. Seems like Trae has a similar one. If I'm correct, he hurt his ankle against Milwaukee when we went and saw them in Atlanta before the
Peach Bowl, right?
Before the Peach Bowl.
Yep, December 2019, like 12 minutes into the game.
Yep, he was hurt that game. He had an ankle injury October of 29th of 2019. He had a ankle injury.
But you know what's funny about that, though? The game that we watched, that was what, about a year and a half calendar year ago, and how they were like the worst team in the NBA. So to go from that to this in a year and a half, I'm telling you, shows you they can still find a way to compete in this series, even though Trae Young is not what he normally is.
I can give you that. I can give you that ability to come together and play, but they also don't have Hunter, so...
I mean, I don't know how big of a factor he was. I mean, that hurts him a little bit.
I think he's a big factor, just as an additional piece based upon, because they just got Cam Reddish back.
So they sure did, didn't they?
They just got Cam Reddish back. So if they need all the bodies that they have.
Right. Everybody's got to pitch in. All hands on deck.
This is an all hands on deck situation. This is not a situation where you can rely on one person, because Bogdanovich has not been that good this series.
And he's battling a bit of a knee issue. He looked better yesterday with how he was moving, but yeah, he's still got a bit of a knee issue too.
Exactly. And so if that's going to be the situation,
I mean, so you don't think Lou Will can run this offense in Trae's place? I know that's not his forte necessarily, but you don't think he can do that?
How good has Lou Williams been since he went to Atlanta? Didn't he almost retire when he got there?
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty good. In the regular season, he was pretty bad. Playoffs, he's been pretty good.
Playoffs, he's been pretty good.
Right.
Let me pull up his numbers while it's in my mind.
Okay.
Make sure I give you guys some accurate stuff. I don't want people to get all upset because we're having fun here talking about these games. So we have this man, Jimmy.
Give me the playoff numbers first. He's been bad in the playoffs. How many minutes is he playing? Give me something.
Okay.
Come on.
Lou is averaging 13 minutes a game. He's scoring about 6.5 points per game on average. He has 2 double-digit scoring averages. But he had a couple of 9, 8-point games. A couple of 9s.
What do his assist numbers look like?
2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 3, 0, 3s, 1, 2, 0, 2, and 3. I think Lou Will's starting to show his age.
Bogdanovich is your team now. You're the captain now.
You're the captain now. Yeah. It's your roster.
Right.
Okay. Well, besides that, other rosters that we talk about here on the Unfair Sports on a Monday is the
news.
And now, Jimmy has the news.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, so Jay, new Celtics coach, Ime Udoka.
Yeah.
Was talking about taking over as a Celtics head coach, and he said that he vows to push their 2 stars, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, in the sense of being on their both on the court and off the court in terms of pushing them to be the best that they can be. And they both of the stars say they are open to being coached like this. But at the same time, Jay, I wonder, is being pushed what they really need, given the generation that they come from and how they tend to take to really being coached hard like that? Do you think this is good for the two stars?
Yes, I do. I think that they are accepting of coaching. I think the problem with Brad Stevens was it was just same voice, 6 years. At a certain point, everybody kind of, it's not that they tune you out because they respect Brad Stevens. It was just kind of getting old, but a new voice, new perspective, new thought process, and coming from Brooklyn, I think he's gonna be able to leverage all the stuff that he was working with KD and James Harden and Kyrie Irving, and then plant it in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think it'll be a difference maker for him.
I mean, I think if he's going to push them, you don't have to push them on offense because they're both really good offensive players. You got to push them on defense. You got to push them to look at defense the same way they look at offense, because that's part of a championship team makeup, especially in recent memory that we've seen. It's hard to find a NBA champion within the last 10 to 15 years that didn't work really hard on defense.
I agree.
So we'll see. So up next, I got a couple of NBA rumors for you. The first involves the Golden State Warriors. There is a rumor that they plan to package their number 2 overall pick, number 2 James Wiseman, and the number 2 pick. He was number 2 pick last year. So James Wiseman and the number 7 pick for this season in a big trade. And one name that's been floated out there is them trading for Toronto's Pascal Siakam. So if they were to pull this off and get Siakam, Jay, will he make the Golden State Warriors a contender?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see him adding a dynamic to the team that they're needing, a good slasher that isn't Steph Curry. Because Clay really isn't, and Clay's coming off of that injury. Right. We don't know what he's going to be.
Right.
They may need to package Wiseman and Wiggity split, send them both up back to Canada. Send them back to Canada and go from there.
I think you do that for Siakam, and I think that what I think will work about him is not even what he does on the court. He was an all-star 2 seasons ago, but I think that he fits into their culture, and their culture really is, people don't really think of it this way, but their culture really is work hard, team first.
Yep.
And then everybody gets theirs. So I think that he will buy into that. So if they can make that happen, they definitely should. They better pray that Toronto is in a rebuild, and they're going to get rid of him. They're going to get rid of Kyle Lowry, and I guess build the team around Fred VanVleet. So if you can get Siakam, get him. All right, lastly, speaking with NBA rumors again, the Timberwolves, there's a report that the Timberwolves badly want Ben Simmons of the 76ers, who most likely will be available and looking for a fresh start, just like the organization. So if the T-Wolves were to get Ben Simmons and pair him, we'll say, with Karl Anthony Towns, as well as their number 1 pick last year, Anthony Edwards, who was number 2 in Rookie of the Year voting this season, do you see them making it to the playoffs in the West?
Who are they going to send? D'Angelo Russell over there?
D'Angelo Russell, and let's say some picks.
Wow, they just got D'Angelo Russell and put him together with Karl Anthony Towns.
Throw a goal.
They're supposed to be boys.
Yeah, crabby. That's true. So then who are they seeing? Anthony Edwards? He's going to be really good. I'm high on Anthony Edwards. Nobody cares about him. Nobody's seen him play, but I'm high on him.
100%.
So they're going to send Anthony Edwards or Ben Simmons?
No, they'd have to send. Well,
you're right. They can't send Russell.
Who would Philly prefer? Ben Simmons? D'Angelo Russell or Anthony Edwards? And to be honest, because they're in win mode now, I'd say probably getting D'Angelo Russell. That would be actually a not too bad pick.
So then you pair Russell Simmons and Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah, they're on Def Comedy Jam tree.
Exactly. Is that it?
It's news.
And that was Jimmy with the news.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, Bogdan's been garbage. 4, 8, and 8 in the last 3 games. He shot 3 for 16 in the last game. Booty.
Yeah.
All right, so NBA rumors. Gotta love it, right? Gotta love all the craziness that's going around.
Yeah.
And especially with these great playoffs, well, we got more stories coming out of Los Angeles and in these playoff situations with the playoff team. Jamie, I don't know what you think about this, but super intriguing. So, as you all know, superstar forward Kawhi Leonard, the Claw, what it do, baby, Mr. the robot, whatever you want to call him. He didn't have a really good breakup when it came to San Antonio. No. He left the Spurs specifically because he did not trust the medical staff, especially when it came to that quad injury that he had that I personally feel like he's actually still injured with and is still dealing with. It's not your standard just, hurt. Well, there is a rumor now that Kawhi Leonard is also mad with another medical staff. It is the Los Angeles Clippers medical staff. And this is what Skip Bayless, I guess, said on FS1. I've been told by a very good source that the first issue became Kawhi was unhappy with the Clippers medical staff because he felt that they, early on, misdiagnosed and underplayed the extent of his knee injury. I was also told, as I told you from day one when this happened, he's gone. He's going to need some type of surgery. I'm not sure exactly what extent of it is, but he's going to need surgery, so he's out for the rest of the playoffs. So now that we have a story that Kawhi Leonard is not very happy with the medical staff with yet another team, we have to ask the question, Jimmy, is it fair or unfair to say that Kawhi Leonard will want out of Los Angeles?
I'm going to go with unfair for several reasons. The first of which is that it's Skip Bayless who is offering this information from one of his sources. And when it comes to, and I know he was a long-time reporter before he ever made it to television, but this is more Shams Charania, Chris Haynes, Adrian Wojnarowski territory. So I would give more credence to that as opposed to Skip Bayless, who's more of a TV personality.
Right.
So for that, that's one of the reasons why it makes me feel like this is unfair. I think it's also unfair because I don't think he wants to go anywhere because he's been given everything he wanted. He got to go to the place he wanted. He got the number 2 that he wanted, and they have, bent over backwards in order to make him happy because they saw how things ended up in San Antonio. So I think that he'll resign. I think that if this is coming out, I think part of it is he's using this as leverage because there are more things that he wants. So he wants to put the fear in Steve Ballmer that he's going to leave, and that therefore Steve Ballmer will again continue to give him everything that he wants. And we obviously know that Kawhi Leonard can maybe have some strange requests in some strange ways because there may be a player on a team who's under contract for the next 5 years that Kawhi Leonard wants specifically, and he knows that if he doesn't have the leverage, he won't get this organization to do again what they did before. Obviously, it'd be harder to do now since they gave the draft for the next 50 years to the Oklahoma City Thunder in order to get Paul George in Los Angeles. So I don't see him leaving. I think that he's going to sign for the max. He is using this as leverage to get more of what he wants, and we can't trust Skip Bayless's reporting. He's somewhat emotional when it comes to Kawhi Leonard. He's a big fan of Kawhi Leonard. There's nothing wrong with that, but he takes up for him a lot. So I think that there's a bit of a Skip Bayless agenda in this. So for that reason, I can't fully trust the reporting that it's even accurate that he's even that unhappy with the medical staff of the Clippers. So I'm going to say it's unfair.
I'm with you on that. I get your point. I'm opposite, though. I think it's fair to say that Kawhi Leonard's going to want out. I'm going to also say that it would make zero sense for him to want out of Los Angeles with the Clippers. He needs to stay there. His owner is an eccentric billionaire. I say that because he just spent like $2 billion of his own money to fund the arena and the development around said arena. This is out of his pocket. He didn't take public funding because Ballmer is, probably worth about 70, 80, 90, whatever billions. The dude worked at Microsoft.
Every time you turn your Xbox on, he makes another $1 million.
Exactly. That may be true, may not be true, but whatevs. It's there. So he's got a guy that's got the money to get any and everything that he needs to make everything better. So if he needs him to spend more money to get him a better medical staff, he can. Now, this is the issue that I see it fair that Kawhi's going to potentially want out. Like I said, I think it's stupid, but I can see him wanting to want out. Everybody's downplaying his injuries. The one thing about professional athletes we know is that professional athletes play through any and everything. They find a way to get on the court, the field, or whatever. It's rare you find a player that's like, nah, I'm injured, ow, I hurt my fingernail, I'm out, besides baseball players. And that's mainly because they're in the sun nonstop. So I get you find an excuse and you're playing 145 billion games. But basketball and football, you have to find an excuse to get on. You always want to be on there, even hurt or not, because you want that elusive championship. Kawhi has two, but he wants to be able to get this team there as well. And so if he's not playing, he's truly hurt. And I pointed this out about that Raptors run. He looks hurt. Like he looks like he is laboring to get through every game. That leg is messed up.
He couldn't hardly walk after that game that they won. Exactly. And they won the championship.
Something is wrong with him, like in a bad way. Like I compare it to the Brandon Roy situation where he was having degenerative knees, where his knees were just basically just disappearing. Everything was falling apart. I think that's something like that with his quad and his knee, everything around that leg, and they're downplaying it. They're saying, nah, I don't think it's as bad, or they can't find it, which I get. If you can't find it, it's probably something weird. They got to stop doing that with that dude. You can't downplay him not being hurt just because you think that he just wants more time off. Now, at the same time, I mean, all the rumors were going around about how Kawhi Leonard lives in San Diego and drives up, which, if I'm correct, is about an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. I've made the drive once before. Traffic, not traffic, I'm not sure. It just depends. Mm-hmm. I've made the drive from San Diego up to LA before, and it's a drive. It's not short. But he makes that drive, and he had a tendency of being late and all of that behavior, which I can say is warranted for the team to be concerned. Mm-hmm. At the same time, he's your star player. And your team is much better with him on the court than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And it's been proven. So you kind of got to play into whatever he's feeling and just let him do his thing. But if you start pushing back too hard, you're going to lose him. Mm-hmm. And he's probably going to go across the street. He's not going to leave California.
I would say, because I was hoping you would get there, I would say that he would want to go to a situation where he knows he can win a championship, where he to face the Brooklyn Nets at some point, and to where he doesn't have to be the number one. Because as his body is falling apart, he's not going to be able to carry that, and that's what he was expected to do in LA. He probably doesn't like that responsibility because all the questions, all the criticism, it all comes to him first.
Yep.
Now, there was some people who put it on Paul George first because he played so poorly in the bubble and in certain parts of this postseason, but ultimately it comes down to him. So I could see that him doing maybe what he should have done in the very beginning, which is to join AD and LeBron. Or another good place that I think could be for him is Miami with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. I would love to see him there.
But he has to move cross country at that
True.
point. And you know that Pat Riley's not going to play the game of that injury stuff. No, that's not how that culture is. So I would struggle with him being in Miami only because of that. Mm-hmm. He could go back to Toronto because Toronto would give him everything. If there's any place that would be smart for him to go, is going back to Toronto.
But that's the same problem. You know, going from one part of the country to an actual different country, I guess. So if he wouldn't go to Miami, he wouldn't go to Toronto either.
No, I agree. I'm going to say he's going to stay in the state of California.
It would be pulling a Montrezl Harrell and giving two middle fingers to the Clippers by staying in the same building and just becoming a Laker.
Yeah, they're in the same building for 2 more years.
So depending upon how they play this, you're right, that could become an option because he still gets essentially everything that he wants.
Yep, he gets to be in San Diego and he can drive up and do what he wants.
I'm not the number one anymore. This is LeBron's team. Anthony Davis is probably going to get more criticism than I do because I'm going to be more available than he typically is.
I don't really know if the criticism truly bothers him. I think with
Kawhi?
I think it's more because, I mean, he didn't really talk, so it's not like you really hear much of him saying anything.
Right.
I believe it's more so the carrying the load, especially with the way his leg is bothering him. And to me, it's okay if a player says, hey, I know I'm great, but I'm falling apart. Kind of need a little bit of a break.
Okay. So his most trusted advisor, I believe, is his Uncle Dennis.
Yep.
Right? So let's say you're Uncle Dennis. He comes to you, and let's say this report is actually true, that he is unhappy with the Clippers medical staff because of how they handled his injury in the series before. And he wants to know what your opinion is as to whether or not he should look to sign elsewhere in free agency this offseason, opt out, then become a free agent, or if he should try to work things out and stay with the Clippers. So what would you, Uncle Dennis, advise him to do?
Stay your butt in LA with the Clippers. Your owner's a billionaire. He'll probably do any and everything you want him to do to make things happen. Start cleaning out that staff and start upgrading facilities. I mean, you're going to have all this great stuff in the next 2 years. The unfortunate thing is I don't know if his body's going to hold up for them to move in 2024 to the new arena,
right?
Where they'll have all these amenities. But get with ownership and be like, hey, man, we need to upgrade some stuff, man. You got money. You got effort money. You can burn money. You can literally put $1 billion on fire right now and be just fine and not even think about it twice. You need to start spending some of this money on facilities and stuff for us on the side so that we can get better. That's what I would do.
Right.
Personally.
All right, so sticking with the NBA, Jay, if you are a fan of the Portland Trailblazers, your anxiety level, which is hopefully usually at a 0 or a 1, is probably at a 5 today with the report that came out recently, just as I say that, Damian Lillard started a live video on the gram. Wonder what he might be talking about. There's a report that came out, this is from Dan Feldman on NBC Sports, that Damian Lillard could leave the Trailblazers due to blowback over the Chauncey Billups hire, one of two coaches that he said he wanted to play for. For those of you who don't know, this backlash to them hiring Chauncey Billups primarily stems from a rape case that occurred in 1997, his rookie season, along with several other Celtics teammates, and I forgot he even was a Celtic.
Yeah, he was drafted.
Drafted. Yeah. So I forgot. I just don't remember him in that uniform.
Right. Yeah, because he wasn't there very long.
Yeah. So in the sense that he was never criminally charged, I don't believe, but they did settle a civil suit out of court in 1997 for an undisclosed amount with the young lady who accused them of that. So adding to this, Damian Lillard, who endorsed this hire before this aspect of the story came out, has taken a lot of backlash from fans. So from Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports, up-and-coming superstar, honestly, as a sports writer, said the enormous backlash from the Trailblazers process to hire a new coach and his concerns on whether a championship contender can be built have become factors that may push Damian Lillard out the door. Lillard has remained loyal to Portland in large part due to the tremendous fan base, but over the last few days, he's seen some of those same fans attacking him on social media for a pending coaching hire he played no part in consummating. So with how many of the Trailblazers fans and just other NBA fans have gone at Damian Lillard about endorsing Chauncey Billups, who may or may not have done certain things in this particular case in 1997, is it fair or unfair to say that this will culminate in Dame Lillard requesting a trade from the Blazers?
Oh, no, I think it's fair. I think it's fair that he could request a trade. The Blazers would be stupid to trade him. I wouldn't trade him. I'd look at him and smile and be like, you know that extension you just signed? You know, you see that extension? That one you just got? Yeah, we've saying you $200 million. No, you're not going anywhere. You're here. You're here. You're here until we can get more value out of you. And there's not much they can get out of him today. I mean, because think about it. Where are they going to trade him to? You have to trade it to a team that's going to get him some good draft picks. That's going to be able to help them get a generational talent. One place he could go, maybe Detroit. You can ship him to Detroit, get the number one pick, get Cade Cunningham, and boom, build around him and C.J. McCollum. You technically could do that. But outside of that, I wouldn't be sending him anywhere. I would not be sending him anywhere he wants to go. Because there's no incentive for them to do that. He has years on his contract. If he was an expiring deal similar to everybody else, yeah, you would need to negotiate and figure out something. But that's the one thing a lot of people have to remember when it comes to these extensions and these contracts is most players that get traded because they want to be traded or they have the power of player enablement to move is because their contracts are about to be up and they can just walk.
Right.
So they tell the team, you can make a choice. You take this, you can give it to me willingly. No, you can make a choice. You can either let me walk and get nothing,
right,
or you can trade me and get picks from somebody.
Right.
But no matter what, I'm not re-signing. And I mentioned this in the other video before. It was a bad idea for Dame to sign that extension. I understand his love and loyalty for the city, but if he had any inch of concern about being a contender, in which this Yahoo article was saying is that he's worried that they're not going to be able to build a title contending roster around him, then if that's the case, you shouldn't have signed the extension. He should have been playing free agency and just seeing whether, because to be honest, you probably could have got traded to the Lakers at that point if you really want to go down to LA or even to another contender like that. Your opportunity to get out is kind of diminished because they still got you on the hook for so much money.
With agreeing with a lot of what you said, I think that it's unfair to say that he's going to request a trade. I think that, in a sense, this was his first hire. This is a level of power that not many NBA stars really even get. I don't think even LeBron got to pick Frank Vogel as his coach. He signed off. I mean, I won't even say he signed off on it. He was fine with it. We'll say that.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a part of the hiring process the way in which Damian Lillard was. And he's the best player that they've had since probably, Clyde Drexler? So they will make certain concessions for him, just like we talked about with Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. So I think that essentially this is his first hire. They didn't get his first choice, J. Kidd, because J. Kidd knew he was going to Dallas, but they got his second choice, Chauncey Billups, who was very much sought after in the NBA head coaching market.
Right.
So I don't think that he's going to walk away from that or this organization that you said, at least vocally, and in action, that he's been very, very loyal to. So I don't think it's that. But I think that despite this Billups hiring, if over the next 2 seasons they have another 1 and done or 2 and done out of the playoffs, then he's going to force a trade. So it will be that. It will be the performance of this team more than that. But I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen because you are not. I don't see any way that they can build unless they get lucky and strike gold in the lottery, in the draft,
or they trade
in the draft.
Kristaps Porzingis,
and
send
something monumental that we don't expect has to happen in order for them to build a championship roster around him in Portland. Something that's been very difficult to do. Have they won a championship in Portland? Or if they have, it was like 50 years ago, right?
Not in my lifetime. I know that
not
much.
my lifetime either.
I was a Clyde Drexler fan, and so Clyde didn't get a ring there, and nobody in between there got a ring. So, in my understanding, I don't think Portland's ever won a championship. I could be wrong. I'm not looking it up right now, guys. So there's a reason why I'm going to say that answer. There's no reason for me to look it up right now, but I don't believe that they have a championship.
Yeah, so it's not going to be over Chauncey Billups. It's not going to be over this fan backlash because once the season starts.
I was wrong. It was 1977. They did win a chip.
There we go. So once the season starts, no one, in a sense, for good or ill, is going to think about this. Just look at in recent memory with the Sacramento Kings and with the allegations of sexual assault that hung over the coach, Luke Walton's head. But once the season started, nobody talked about that, primarily because they play in Sacramento.
And they're awful.
I won't call them awful. Between De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, they have interesting guys to see. They play an interesting style of basketball.
Every year for like the last 15 years.
They struggle to be successful in Sacramento. But nonetheless, no one was talking about it after that. So I don't think it would be because of that he ultimately walks away from Portland.
I can totally see that. The hire, I have been an advocate for the Chauncey piece. I thought he should have probably got the Cleveland job. I think they should have made him president of basketball operations when he was quote unquote offered it, but they lowballed him a lot because he was inexperienced. In that situation, I was a little annoyed. They should have went ahead and just gave him a little bit more money, more realistic money for somebody, not even a fully experienced president, but more of a don't pay him like you're paying a first-year coach.
Because then they end up signing John Beeline? Isn't that who they signed instead of Chauncey Billups?
Well, Chauncey was going to be the president of basketball operations, and then they were going to hire a coach with him. He was going to be in the front office. And he's respected by a lot of players, and that's kind of what you want. You want a coach that's respected by players like that can command an audience, who's won a championship like he has, and has been able to show that he could potentially put together the right X's and O's and help a player like Dame because they're not too far off in size to help him get a chip. But I get the backlash, especially with his history. It sucks that you truly can't be redeemed when it comes to situations like that because there's going to be people out there that's not going to agree with it. And I understand that. I can't even argue it. I'm on neither side of the spectrum with that because I totally get it. Especially with the Becky Hammons piece being added in there. I don't know how that played out and why she wasn't truly considered. But to be honest, that's not a job I wanted her to get. I prefer her to go somewhere where I feel like there's a good chance for success. Because like you mentioned, you made a very good point. If they get bounced out next year, he's going to want out. Period. I don't care what moves they make. He's going to want out. And I wouldn't want Becky Hammons to have to deal with that. I would prefer her being somewhere that she has a chance to actually go 3, 4, 5 years of either building the team or have some success and step ladder up to where that we can see truly who she is, because the biggest issue you run into with a lot of coaches, and we've seen this with black coaches in football, we've seen this even some in basketball, is if you're not successful immediately, people write you off. And I don't want that with her. With Chauncey, people are going to give him more leeway with that situation because there's nothing you can control in Portland. I don't think Portland's going to be a contender. I like Portland. They're not going to be a contender. Period.
No.
Not in the West.
No.
There's no chance for it. Unless they get unless Kawhi Leonard ends up in Portland, there's no chance that they're going to be a contender. And that's just me, joking around here. But for the most part, they need a big piece. They need a really big piece to help them get past because they haven't been able to get anywhere. They got one conference championship, went to the Western Conference Finals once with Dame there in the 8 years he's been in the league.
And got swept
badly. So and the only reason why they went there is because everybody else was injured in the West that year. So besides that, I don't see them going anywhere without a very big move, and I just don't see what that big move would be that would get them there.
I don't either.
So we'll see what happens.
He's leaving.
Okay, let's wrap this bad boy up and put the bows on it like I always do. But first off, I want to mention, I didn't get to mention at the beginning or whatnot because I didn't have a standard opening, but my bad on the last show. I didn't get to put together. This has been a hectic month at the employment place. I had to finish up a certification before Wednesday. And yeah, because I procrastinated and did everything last minute. And so I basically spent the last week cramming basically like for a college exam to get the certification completed, and I finished it at 4:00 this morning. So I didn't get much sleep last night.
Wow.
I was literally doing it just about every day. I was getting at least a couple of hours in of completing it. I got the test done. I am recertified, and I am good for 3 more years. Thank goodness.
Top flight security of the world. Congratulations.
Top flight security of the world, Craig. So, outside of my top flight security of the world, Jimmy, let's talk about the drama in the world. Now, we try to avoid these type of topics, but to be honest, as we're getting more and more followers in YouTube, and we're starting to hear from more and more people that you all respect our opinion, and we appreciate that. You don't have to agree with us all the time, but we appreciate us being respected for it, because we're going to have our blind spots. We're not going to be perfect with a lot of the commentary, but at the same time, we're going to be thoughtful as possible. That's why we try to bring a pensive approach to this. So, we don't normally divulge into this, but this is something we'll probably see more of us doing, because I think that these are the videos you guys will love to hear about. So, long division way of saying this. Our boy Scottie out here wilding, man. Scottie Pippen out here being wild, man. So, we all know that Scottie Pippen was not in any way, shape, or form pleased with The Last Dance. He even told this to Michael Jordan. He wasn't pleased at the way that he was portrayed. In numerous ways, he did a interview with The Guardian right afterwards, and he was kind of talking about his relationship with Jordan and all of that jazz. Transitioned even from, because he said, this is what he quote. So they asked, have you spoken to Jordan about your opinions of the series? He said, yeah, I told him I wasn't too pleased with it. He accepted it. He said, hey, you're right. That was pretty much it. And so Scottie wasn't happy with that. That basically saved us throughout the pandemic. It gave us something to do and talk about throughout it. And so because of that, Scottie's now going to speak his truth. And I cannot be mad at him for that.
Right.
He is now he's on a tour. He's not only talking about his new bourbon that he has, Digits, as well as his upcoming book called Unguarded, which is where he talks about his perspective of those Jordan runs. He did an interview with GQ. And boy, did he let it go. Not only did he touch on Michael Jordan and the situation there, he talked about Kevin Durant and the difference between him and LeBron James, which we'll divulge into even more in a minute.
Yes.
He even dove into his beef with Charles Barkley, and he continues that going on and why that beef was there. So, Jimmy, I want to dive into the most important one of all of this, and I think it was the criticism of Kevin Durant. Do you think he was fair or unfair when he was talking about Kevin Durant not being the same as or as good as LeBron James as a teammate?
He was being and then fair. He blended it between the two. Okay. So when I looked at, from what I read out of this article, the top 4 claims that he made that I saw as it pertained to LeBron James or just Kevin Durant compares to him, he said KD never had to be the man and bring the team home. He said that LeBron James essentially would have found a way to beat the Nets. I got that he believed Bron knows team basketball better than Kevin Durant. And I got out of this that Kevin Durant, I think he says this explicitly, that Kevin Durant has not surpassed LeBron James, especially as it pertains to leading a team. I agree with 2 of those, and 2 of those are questionable. I agree that Kevin Durant has never had to be the man and bring the team home.
Let's break down each one of them. Let's start with that first.
KD has never had to be the man and bring the team home. We know that he started out in Oklahoma City with Russell Westbrook. Ultimately, it was Russell Westbrook's team. He leaves and goes to Golden State, where it's Steph, Clay, and Draymond's team. And then he comes to Brooklyn, and he had his first full season this past year. So, in Oklahoma City and Golden State, him never having to be the man and bring the team home, I do agree with that. What do you think of that?
I can agree as well. This isn't now. I don't understand the backlash that came from this last week around Pippen saying this. This truly wasn't a slight at Kevin Durant because he basically said this. He said Kevin Durant's a scoring forward. LeBron's a point forward. Two different types of players, but great in their own ways. Like, he talked about this, and honestly, it's more of an indictment on Steve Nash than it is Kevin Durant. He basically pointed out that Kevin was bringing the ball up. He was running the show for the most part and trying to find his shot, which is going to do nothing but exhaust you, which led to him being tired and gassed by the end of every single game. And he mentioned that if Steve was smart, or they were smart, they would have set it up. They would put Kevin in the post. That's rest time. He can just catch it in the post, do his little move, pass it out. He can rest and not bring it up and try to do everything where PJ Tucker and him is catching him right there at the line, right there at half court, bodying up with them. He can kind of body in there, or he can lean his body on them, put his dead weight on the defender, and exhaust them at the same time. That would have helped a lot more than it would be him bringing it up. So I totally agreed with him on that portion of it. I think he was a little too far with the Kevin can't distribute, because I think he can.
Yep. Well, with that, I think that just because Kevin Durant, hasn't really had to be the man of the team like that, just like Kawhi Leonard hadn't before he came to LA, doesn't mean that he can't do it. Obviously, with someone who possesses the greatest God-given skill set on offense that we've ever seen, can definitely find a way. And this was against, we talk about Milwaukee. Milwaukee may very well win the championship. So then if you push them by yourself with only a half a star there with you, and you push them to a game 7 that comes down to your shot, where right then is when all the energy you had left your body, I don't think that that's anything to be ashamed of. He gave everything he had in that series, and by and large, he was the best player in that series. Period. So there are going to be other opportunities in Kevin Durant's career where he's going to have to be the man to bring that team home, and I think that it will be in those opportunities, maybe not all of them, but eventually he is going to do that, and he is going to lead this team to a place that they've never been before. So, but at the same time, he was right. Next point, LeBron James would have found a way to beat the Brooklyn Nets.
So I'm going to disagree with him on that, and this is the only reason why I'm going to disagree with him on that. LeBron James has dealt with injuries with teammates before. He has found a way to make it through the East in years past with injuries. I mean, Kelly Olynyk was knocked out basically by the Boston Celtics. Kelly Olynyk knocked out Kevin Love in the first round against the Boston Celtics. Kyrie was in and out and then hurt going into the finals, and guess what happened when they got to the finals? They took them L's. Right. I mean, they ran through them, the Hawks, but still took them L's. I don't know if LeBron would have been able to figure this out. I mean, I don't know what players did you have on that roster that were actually going to be able to make a difference? James Harden's hobbled on that hamstring, and you can tell by the way he was playing, he was hobbled on that hamstring. Spencer Dinwiddie ain't playing. Kyrie's out. I mean, I like Joe Harris, but Joe wasn't making shots.
He was absent. He was gone. He was gone.
Bruce Brown had the confidence that you want out of a player, just didn't have the skill to go with that confidence.
Right.
And it's no shade to him. I mean, he's a really good player for what he does, but there's levels to this in the NBA. There's levels to players. Right. He wasn't there. So that's why I asked the question, what could LeBron have done any different than what Kevin did outside of... Because LeBron's a distributor, being a point forward, what could he have done differently than Kevin to actually make something happen? If it was, as he mentioned, if they were smart enough to have leveraged Kevin Durant in the post so he could get more rest, he wouldn't have been as gassed going into to overtimes. I think that Kevin could have won that. I blame coaching in that series.
Yeah, I mean, if Scottie was here right now, what I want to know is which LeBron James are you talking about? Because if you're talking about the LeBron James that we just saw in this series, the Nets don't even make it to a game 7. You're out in 5, maybe 6.
4.
Out in 4. So if you're talking about prime, let's say Miami Heat, LeBron James, you might have a bit of an argument, but you can't just say LeBron James would have gotten him there. No, he wouldn't. Not this LeBron James this year or last year would have got him there.
He's just been hurt. He's aged. He's at that age where, hell, I was thinking about the other day how I hurt my ankle playing basketball like 3 years ago, and it took like a year and a half for it to heal.
I remember that.
I went to the doctor, and they were just like, hey, man, you just old. Do some stretches. He's like, does it hurt? I was like, hell, it hurt. The sheets hurt. When the sheets put weight on my ankle, it hurts. And they're like, hey, man, I'm going to tell you. We don't see nothing in the MRI. You just old. So LeBron's at that point, even with all the money he invests in his body, he old. I don't think he would ever do anything.
All right. So next he says that Kevin Durant hasn't surpassed LeBron James. Now, did he say that he hasn't surpassed LeBron James, period, or that he hasn't surpassed LeBron James in leading a team?
So I was trying to find how he said it, it seems like he was saying that he hasn't passed him as far as leading a team.
Okay. I agree with that. That's true. I mean, that's part of what has made LeBron James from the very beginning of his career, going back to high school, is that the leadership intangible has been just as valuable as his ability to run an offense, to rebound, to assist, to score. Anything that he does is that leadership ability, because that leadership ability is what gets more out of the players around you. So, like, for instance, if LeBron had been on this team, they wouldn't have won, but you would have gotten more out of a Joe Harris or more out of a Bruce Brown. You would have gotten more out of them because that's what your leadership ability does. That's like the Chris Paul effect that we're seeing now in Phoenix. Right.
Blake Griffin may have gotten more out of Blake Griffin, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Griffin had a good series in my opinion, but he might have would have gotten more out of him. So, yeah. So, in terms of the leadership intangible, yes, but LeBron has always had that, just like KD has never been called to be that. He would have to develop that. If he has enough career to ultimately evolve into a good leader, we don't know yet. But, no, hardly anyone has passed LeBron James' leadership.
Quote. This is the quote, basically. It said, I'm gonna paraphrase it down to this. You know, Kevin Durant, Brooklyn, Kyrie gets hurt, James Harden ain't that guy. Now KD only has to score for them, but also make plays for them. And this is no knock to KD, but they asked me, has he surpassed LeBron James? They didn't really tell if it's been as a team player, as a player overall. And say my answer was LeBron James knows team basketball better than KD. KD can score better than LeBron, probably always have been able to. But has he surpassed LeBron? No. He tried to beat the Milwaukee Bucks instead of utilizing his team. You see what I'm saying? LeBron would have figured out how to beat them, and he wouldn't have been exhausted. It may not have taken the last shot, but LeBron ain't KD, and KD ain't LeBron. I am with him on that portion of it. Mm-hmm. I know that we love the comparison of players. That's the game. I know people love making lists. I hate making lists. I know people love to do drafts. I hate doing drafts. That's the things you like to do. And I don't knock anybody's fans because it's fun. There's a fun aspect to it. I hate it only because it's so subjective, and you can argue up and down everybody, no matter what your points are. It's impossible to have anything definitive. I kind of like definitive sometimes, but I don't like the fact. I do like the fact that he said LeBron ain't KD and KD ain't LeBron. KD is a scorer. He is a scoring forward. LeBron is a point forward. And there's nothing wrong with pointing those out. Ain't nothing wrong with pointing out that Kevin Durant is lethal with scoring, but that the human body has limits. And you will hear me say this all the time, folks. The human body has limits, and guess what? You're going to fall apart at a certain point playing 52 minutes in like back-to-back games. I agree with Reggie Miller. They probably should have just tanked Game 6. Let that thing go. Not play them. Just say injury or something, or play them early. Start getting blown out and pull them out and say we're just going to sit this one. And Game 7 would have been a different story. I think Brooklyn wins Game 7 if they weren't exhausted.
I can see that. All right, so last one. LeBron James knows team basketball better than Kevin Durant.
I agree with that. I agree because LeBron is a point forward. That's his game. His game has always been to distribute more than score, but he also can put up buckets because he's LeBron freaking James. Kevin is more of I'm going to get buckets, easy money, sniper. That's why his name is what it be in so many different places. The dude just eats nonstop, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. I do think that LeBron's a better team player than Kevin.
See, I don't think that that's fair. I think that how I look at it in the sense of Kevin Durant has been able to find a way to fit effectively on every team that he's been a part of. And I don't think that if he doesn't understand those team concepts as well as he needs to, he doesn't do that. Like, he doesn't fit as well as he did. I still think even though they didn't win a championship, he still fit well in Oklahoma City. He didn't like the fit necessarily, but he did fit. In Golden State, clearly he fit enough to win 2 championships, 2 final MVPs. So I think that I look at that differently from orchestrating a team or even leading a team. You don't have to do that in order to understand team concepts and fit within your role of the team, even if you are a top 5, top 7 all-time great player because of your skill set. So I don't think that that's fair that he said that LeBron just automatically knows team basketball better than KD.
I have to argue against you on that one, mainly because Kevin Durant's main skill set is getting buckets. That fits on every team in the NBA. There's not one team in the NBA he cannot go to and not get buckets on. You see what I'm saying? Whereas LeBron, you have to make everybody else better around you for your team to be any good. Hell, he got those Cleveland teams to the finals, even when Kyrie was hurt. And he was able to do a lot with, I put it like this, not only with coaching, along with coaching and LeBron out there playing, they were flipping those rosters every year and was still going to the finals. Even with just 3 main guys, that's a big deal. That's a big team piece. Kevin has been in stable situations everywhere he's gone, except for the injury situation in Brooklyn. Now the injury situation that he had in Oklahoma City, and the injury situation he had at Golden State. But he was an insert piece here, and now we scored double the points we scored before. That's who he is. I don't think that means that he's better at team concepts, because he's just a great individual at scoring. He's amazing at it. Like it's beautiful watching him play basketball. Because you really don't need a whole team out there for him to do that.
But that's the thing. That shouldn't sound like a knock against him just because he is this greatest scorer of all time. Because when you think about it, on any team that he's been a part of, as great of a scorer as he is, and if a lot of other NBA players had that exact same skill set, they would literally try to put up 45 a game. But if you notice, the teams that he's been on, everybody else around him still gets theirs. They still eat. Well, maybe not as much as they did before, like Steph. Maybe he doesn't average 30 points prior to Kevin Durant getting, maybe it's more 25, 26, but everybody else still eats. He's incredibly efficient, and I think that that's part of what helps him to be able to fit into a team, is that he doesn't take shots, he doesn't take food out of somebody else's mouth in order to feed himself.
I don't know. So Steph went from 25 to 26 to 27 with Kevin playing with them. So he shot about the same, roughly around the same amount of threes, about 10 per game.
Okay, so he didn't lose anything.
He didn't lose anything.
All right.
And that's my point with a player like Kevin Durant and inserting him in said roster. It's not that he doesn't do the team concept piece. It's not that. The biggest thing about Kevin on the team, the only thing I refute with what you say is Kevin can be placed anywhere and he's going to get buckets. And because he's such a threat at scoring, everyone else is still going to be able to get their shot up. That was the beauty of Golden State. Golden State was a great shooting team. They added the best shooter in the league with the rest of the shooters out there. Even though it's arguably between him and Steph Curry, dude scores at such an efficiency is ridiculous. So you won't hurt Steph and Clay because they're still threats, and he's still a threat too. You see what I'm saying? And then adding James to Brooklyn. They're threats.
But at the same time, that helps my argument in the sense that you said he could fit anywhere. So if you don't understand team concepts very well, how could you fit anywhere?
Because you don't need to have team concepts to fit in with the way he does. He just needs to shoot the ball.
Yes, you do. Because what offense has he ever gone to that he hurt the offense?
He can't hurt an offense. It's impossible for him to hurt an offense. And it's not team concepts. It's impossible.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If he's not as efficient, if he's taking food out of everybody else's mouth, if he's not where he's supposed to be,
that's the point.
Both on offense and defense.
It's impossible for Kevin Durant to make a team worse on offense. It's impossible.
That still helps me.
I don't think it does. I think it's the complete opposite because it's not team concept.
Okay. So if I conceded a little bit, I'll say, okay, hardly nobody understands team basketball as good as or better than LeBron James. Let's say Chris Paul. So all that notwithstanding,
I think that's where we're at with it.
Right.
It's more of that play of they do a good thing of getting everybody else involved. Kevin Durant's, no matter what, he's going to get his, and everybody else needs to figure out a better way to get theirs.
So they don't have to.
Well, what I'm saying like this, they need to figure out how to get theirs because he's taking attention off of them.
Right.
That's more of his team concept is I'm going to take everybody's attention so y'all can still do your thing. Whereas LeBron is I'm going to get you all involved and weave you into the offense in different ways than them going to me as far as attention goes. That's a difference maker. Perfect. All right, Jimmy, what is on the editing room floor?
Rain.
It is raining hard out there too.
Okay. All right. So going off of NBA reports, a lot of unhappiness around the NBA, which I guess when you don't win, I mean that's what comes next is unhappiness.
Fans make it like that.
So there's a report, and this has some substantial sports writers behind it, that Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis do not like each other in Dallas, both off and on the court. So it's really a two-part question, Jay. Why don't Luka and Porzingis like each other?
I'm going to say this in this way. I'm going to say it in a lighthearted way, but at the same time, you'll get my point. You can't expect putting two white dudes together and it's going to work. Period. You see what I'm saying? Like, no. That was everybody's first thought was, we'll put these two Euros together and oh my God, it's going to be great. Nah, man, they got personalities too. Right. And Porzingis needs the ball in order to be effective. And that was his qualm with everything going on in Dallas is he wasn't getting the ball enough. Well, you got Luka Doncic who needs to run the offense. Why the hell would he get the ball to anybody? Kind of what it is.
I think it's true. I think Luka looks at him and doesn't like him. He says, "You're a bad number 2 option." I think that Porzingis looks at Luka and says, "You don't treat me like I'm a number 1 option." Because he still sees himself that way.
Number 2 option,
right?
He didn't treat him as a number 2.
So when you put those two on the court together, that's where the clash happens. That's why they don't like you. It probably started, I don't like you on the court, so I really don't have much of a reason to like you off the court. Either way, this is a problem, and we know that how this problem is going to be solved is that Kristaps is going to be moved, if not before this season, maybe before next season, because they're not getting rid of Luka. He's the cornerstone in the foundation, like Dirk, for the next 15 years. This summer.
He's gone.
All right, he's gone this summer. Maybe to Portland. All right, second part of the question. Well, actually, that answers the second part of the question because I was going to ask, well, what is Dallas going to do about this if they don't like each other? You can't have that with Luka. You cannot have him unhappy with a teammate on the bench with him like Kristaps Porzingis.
Ship him out.
But what are you looking for in return in terms of what kind of a player? What do they need around Luka in order to get better?
Someone that can score. That's all that matters. Give him somebody that can score.
All right. So next, let's go to the WNBA, where a report came out that 99% of the players have been vaccinated. And all 12 teams have met their vaccination threshold as well. So that is fantastic. What percentage of the NBA do you think or do you know is vaccinated?
I don't know officially. I'm going to say probably about 60%. I'm going to be a little bit optimistic with it, but I don't think they're going to hit the ladies' number. The ladies are just, they just do this stuff.
Probably not. Man. But I think that amongst playoff teams, the number is probably higher because there's more of an incentive in order to get vaccinated so that you don't have, in a sense, I guess what happened to Chris Paul, though vaccinated, still ended up being out with COVID. Didn't hurt his team, though. He got very lucky with that. Yep. But I think that with a lot of your playoff teams, that's why outside of Chris Paul, we haven't seen hardly anybody else on any of these final 4 to 8 teams be out with COVID.
Agreed. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
What else? That it?
Oh, that's it.
All right. Oh, man. Well, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel. Go to unfair-sports.com. Click on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share. Why? Because sharing is caring.
Gifted.
We're going to get big is because you're the people. So, Mike, Bob, Wendy, thank you so much for doing what you do best. And for Jimmy, we'll be back on the standard rotation. NBA Finals are coming up soon. The 4th of July is about to hit, so it's going to be a great weekend.
And Titans fans, we haven't forgotten about you. We got something special, something very special we're planning for you.
We're doing some stuff. They're actually still commenting on that video. I've gotten
I love
4 or 5 hate messages. I need to go on there and you need to go ahead and respond to a couple of them and remind them of why they're hating. But I've been chopping up back. I love the conversation. So hop on our YouTube page, unfair-sports.com. Go to YouTube. Like I said, like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring. And give us 5 stars. You think we deserve it? Man, just give us 5 anyway.
Give it.
So, chop it up in a few days.
Peace.